first part of Scrappy and Chaotic TV, you came to my mama's house at my daughter's birthday party, where Erica and my mama, everybody that everybody liked to watch. You came over there with all your little cameras and stuff like that, and we made it. We said this is our first episode. This for our first episode. Not only he do that, he kept everywhere I was at. He right there filming me doing all this shit because he had to use me to get it up there. That's why it's up there now, because I was there. I was present. Now when it came to my kids, I can't be there for you, homie. I can't be there when you making plans because you ain't got no kids. You ain't got no kids, so you gonna goddamn go and do whatever you gotta do.
The phone calls started quietly, almost like a whisper spreading through the night. At first, it was just a few worried messages between friends. Then it turned into dozens. Within minutes, the entire hip-hop community was holding its breath. Lil Scrappy was in the hospital, not just for a routine checkup, not for a minor injury. He was in the ICU, fighting for his life. The news hit Atlanta like a thunderclap. One moment, everything seemed normal. The next moment, sirens were cutting through the streets as paramedics rushed him to the emergency room. Witnesses say he looked pale and barely conscious when they loaded him into the ambulance. His body was weak, his breathing was shallow, and the people around him were terrified. Inside the hospital, doctors moved quickly, pushing him through double doors while nurses cleared the hallways. Machines were brought in. Oxygen tubes were connected. Monitors began screaming as medical staff worked to stabilize him. Outside the ICU, the atmosphere quickly turned emotional. Family members arrived, one after another, their faces full of fear. Phones were ringing non-stop, messages were flying across social media, and the words everyone kept repeating were the same: pray for Scrappy. Because the truth was painfully clear. This wasn't just another celebrity headline, this was a life or death moment. But what makes this situation even more heartbreaking is that the road leading up to that hospital bed was far longer and more painful than anyone realized. For years, Lil Scrappy built a reputation as someone who could survive anything. Fans saw him as tough, fearless, and resilient. From his early days in the Atlanta rap scene to becoming a familiar face on reality television, he always carried himself like someone who refused to break. But strength can be misleading. Behind the music, the television cameras, and the confident smile, Scrappy had been carrying weight that very few people truly understood. His story didn't begin with fame or luxury. It began in struggle. Growing up in Atlanta wasn't easy. Life around him moved fast, and survival often depended on learning hard lessons early. His mother, Mama D, was known for her strong personality and fierce love for her son. She protected him with everything she had, but their life was far from simple. The environment around them was chaotic, unpredictable, and often dangerous. Like many kids raised in difficult circumstances, Scrappy had to grow up quickly. Childhood didn't last long when responsibility and survival were constantly knocking at the door. Music became his escape. When he discovered hip-hop, it wasn't just about fame or money. It was about expression. It was about turning pain into something powerful. His raw voice and street storytelling quickly caught attention, and before long, he was working with some of the biggest names in the Southern rap scene. Success came fast, but success also brought pressure. Suddenly, Scrappy wasn't just a young artist chasing a dream. He was a public figure, a provider, and someone people depended on. Then came reality television. When he joined the cast of the hit show about Atlanta's music scene, fans finally got a close look at his personal life. The cameras captured the fun moments, the arguments, the celebrations, and the chaos that often followed him. But reality TV has a way of magnifying every problem. Arguments become storylines, private pain becomes public entertainment, and mistakes live forever on the internet. One of the most complicated parts of Scrappy's life played out in front of millions of viewers: his relationship with Bambi. Their love story was passionate, emotional, and anything that's simple. One moment they looked like the perfect couple, laughing together and building a family. The next moment, they were caught in explosive arguments that left everyone questioning whether they could truly find peace together. They loved each other deeply, but love doesn't always erase past wounds or personal struggles. Over time, their relationship became a roller coaster of reconciliation, heartbreak, and attempts to rebuild. At the center of it all was Mama D. She has always been one of the most outspoken and protective mothers on reality television. Her loyalty to her son has never been questioned, but her strong opinions often created tension between her and the women in Scrappy's life. That tension sometimes exploded into dramatic confrontations. Fans watched it happen again and again. Arguments, emotional breakdowns, accusations, and painful words that couldn't be taken back. For viewers, it was shocking television. For Scrappy, it was real life. And balancing those relationships became exhausting. While he tried to be a father, a husband, a son, and a performer, the pressure kept growing. Then there were the physical challenges. Years ago, Scrappy was involved in a serious accident that left him with lingering injuries. While he eventually returned to work, people close to him say he never fully recovered the way he hoped. Pain became something he quietly lived with, but he rarely complained. Instead, he kept moving, touring, filming, recording, traveling, showing up wherever he was needed. From the outside, it looked like success, but inside, cracks were forming. What nobody expected was how quickly those cracks would widen. In the weeks leading up to his hospitalization, several people close to Scrappy noticed something wasn't right. He seemed exhausted. Friends say he had been sleeping little and working constantly. Stress from personal matters had begun to weigh heavily on him, and those around him could see the tension building. There were also rumors of disagreements happening behind the scenes. Family conversations had grown tense, co-parenting responsibilities were complicated, financial decisions and business pressures were demanding his attention every single day. To the public, Scrappy still appeared strong. On social media, he smiled, joked with fans, and posted encouraging messages. But the people closest to him say the reality was very different. He was tired, really tired. There were moments when he reportedly complained of dizziness and feeling weak. At times, he mentioned headaches and chest discomfort, but he brushed it off as stress or exhaustion. That's the thing about people who pride themselves on being strong. They rarely admit when something is wrong, and that mindset may have pushed him closer to a dangerous breaking point. Then came the night everything changed. According to sources close to the situation, Scrappy had been spending time with people he trusted when the atmosphere suddenly shifted during a heated conversation. No one expected the moment that followed. Witnesses say Scrappy suddenly grew quiet, his energy changed, and then he clutched his chest. For a moment, everyone thought he was joking or trying to catch his breath. But within seconds, it became clear that something was seriously wrong. His body weakened and he collapsed. The room exploded in panic. People rushed toward him, calling his name, shaking his shoulders, begging him to respond. But he didn't move. Someone immediately called 911. The operator on the line tried to keep everyone calm while guiding them through emergency steps. Voices in the room were trembling. Some people were crying. Others were desperately trying to stay composed. Time felt frozen. When paramedics finally arrived, the situation looked critical. Scrappy was barely responsive and his breathing was unstable. Emergency responders immediately began working on him, checking his pulse and preparing him for transport. Oxygen was administered while they rushed him onto a stretcher. Within minutes, the ambulance doors slammed shut and the sirens roared to life. The ride to the hospital was tense and urgent. Once they arrived, the situation only became more intense. Doctors and nurses moved fast, transferring him directly to the emergency department before pushing him into the ICU. Machines surrounded his bed, monitors tracked every heartbeat, and specialists began evaluating what had happened. Meanwhile, the phone calls began. Family members were notified one by one. Mama D was among the first to hear the terrifying news. Witnesses say she rushed to the hospital in a state of panic, praying the entire way. When she arrived and learned how serious the situation was, the strong personality fans knew from television completely disappeared. She broke down. The thought of losing her son was something she simply could not bear. Shortly after that, Bambi also received the call. Despite everything that had happened between them over the years, the news shook her deeply. Whatever arguments or misunderstandings existed suddenly felt meaningless compared to the possibility of losing someone who had been such a huge part of her life. She hurried to the hospital as well. And that's when emotions in the waiting area became overwhelming. Mama D was already there, pacing back and forth, demanding updates from doctors. Her voice echoed through the hallway as she asked nurses if her son would survive. Then Bambi walked through the door. For a moment, the tension between them was visible. Years of complicated history sat in that room like a heavy cloud. But something surprising happened. Instead of arguing, both women simply looked at each other with the same expression, fear. Because in that moment, they weren't rivals. They were two people terrified of losing someone they both loved. Inside the ICU, doctors continued working. Tests were being run, monitors were carefully watched, and every small change in his condition was taken seriously. Family members gathered in the waiting area, praying together and hoping for good news. Outside the hospital, fans were already reacting. Social media exploded with messages of concern. Supporters from around the world began posting prayers and encouragement, sharing memories of Scrappy's music and the impact he had on their lives. The hip-hop community joined in, as artists, friends, and former castmates sent messages asking everyone to